If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
Ladies and gentlemen, benchwarmers, this is one of those times where if you've been putting in the effort to stick with the show for a while, if you've been paying attention to things, this is one of those payoff kind of moments. Special bonus episode. We get an interview going back to our interview series, but this time it's with not somebody in sports. It's with the guy that you've been hearing for the last, I want to say, year and a half, almost 2 years. Honestly, I can't remember how long it's been since you sent over that lick, but Warren Garrett, the voice behind our intro music, our theme, if you will. He's joining us today, going to talk a little bit about his journey in his music. We're going to be lucky enough. He said he's going to play. I'm a nerd, so I asked him to play a song acoustically. And then at the end of the show, everybody's going to want to stick around. If you haven't heard his songs before, or if you're tuning in because you're a fan of his music, we're putting in his new single, Let Me Go, which is out now on all platforms. Be sure to go check that one out. Follow him on Spotify, follow him on Apple Music, follow him on all social media at Warren Garrett Music. You can check out his website, warrengarrettmusic.com. Warren, we've been trying, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I'm sure it was a little bit different on your end. The backstory, I've kind of touched on it before, but I was drunk listening to you play country music at a bar in Vegas.
Yep.
You ended with my hero, my all-time favorite. It was Friends in Low Places, which is that was a pandering pick. I'm not gonna lie, but I appreciated it. I came up, I said it was a great show. I loved that performance, and I connected on social media the next day and started hounding you for a song. But this has kind of been my goal the whole time. I don't know if you felt the same way. I thought maybe you thought I was just some random drunk weirdo at Vegas that you're like, I've been here for 6 days. It's time for me to get out of Nevada. I need to get back home to real civilization. But thank you for coming on. This is an honor.
No, hey, thank you for having me, man. No, that was a fun show. Every time in Vegas, it's fun. And believe it or not, man, I've made some cool friends and got to do some cool stuff just from random, conversations in Vegas after the show. So this is awesome. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, I mean, I know we've been trying to kind of connect on this for a minute. I'm glad we finally did. Finally found the day.
You're busy. You're trying to make your way. We were talking a little bit before we turned the camera on, and it is similar, a grind that we both have to be on, basically always thinking about creating something. How am I going to put that out to the world? How is that going to be received? So there's a lot of cool conversations that we're able to have. And we seem to, we're of similar cut cloth. We're both hard workers, and you're doing your thing independently right now. We're on Variety Sports Network, which big shout out to them because this will be available through their channel as well.
That's awesome.
We turn the video over, but we have that network. We're basically still independent, trying to build everything from the ground up. So when you can find like-minded people, it's kind of reassuring that you're on the right track, but also like things work out because you're obviously doing very well and you're putting in a lot of good work. The song that we're going to hear at the end of the episode, I really enjoy. It hits right in the middle of what I'm definitely into right now. And I'm definitely going to, it's a good one. On the relationship front, it's been difficult for the past couple weeks since you guys are hearing this a little bit later. Country music is there for me, so
yeah,
I'm happy about that.
That's always there for you, bro.
That's always the best thing. But let's get into what your story is. You said you're from South Carolina, Clemson country.
Yes,
how did you get? Were you always musically inclined? Is this going to be like an episode of The Voice where you've been like playing guitar since you were 3 and sang lead in your church choir? Or how'd you get involved with it?
No, dude. I started playing with my dad. My dad plays, and it's always kind of been like a hobby and a passion that he had. And so when I was like 8, so not 3, not quite 3, so I don't get the sympathy on that one.
Yeah.
But no, I was 8, and my dad was like, "Hey, man, you want to play something?" Or he wanted me to play something, and the only thing I could pick up, I was 8, was a mandolin. And so I started playing mandolin with my dad because he loved bluegrass and stuff like that. So I started playing with him. And dude, there used to be, so growing up, like I said, I grew up right next to Clemson but I grew up in a little town called Seneca. So my hometown's where you go get a hotel if you want to hang out in Clemson.
So
uh,
it's busy during the fall.
well, yeah, but that's about it. So there's
Yeah.
not a lot to do. There's not a lot going on, but I mean, it's a beautiful place. It's beautiful lakes and all that, but there's not a lot of stuff to do. And some of the old school guys, the old school musicians in the area, they get together and have these like bluegrass jams. And my dad would take me around when I was like 10 or 11 years old and watch these guys play, man. And watching somebody just do it just because they love to do it. But, I was a little kid and I got to watch all these old dudes that could just absolutely destroy on whatever they were playing. And I fell in love with it, man. And, I fell in love with playing and creating. And it was also the way that I started to kind of interface with the world. It was like writing songs or music. It was like my expression.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like blending creative energies together. Like you're able to use what they're able to do. And if you're not familiar with bluegrass, it's kind of like the jazz of the country world, because it does have it
It's a fun
relies
way to put
heavily
that.
on like the talent of the musician. It's not necessarily the words mean something, but like it's the fiddle, it's the fast playing, it's the up tempo, who can outdo who. I'm going to play
Yeah,
this riff faster than you can. You're going to have to keep up, and then it's my turn to switch, and you're going to have to follow me. It's an interesting that's a makes sense why it's a cool environment to grow up in. South
yeah,
Carolina, the South in general just has that kind of like aura or mystique about it. Like if you're living down there, especially if you're in a small town, basically expect people to pull up with a guitar on their back and can I play you a song? And it's going to turn out to be a hit and they're going to be on the radio. But that environment definitely probably, I could see how that kind of shaped you creatively.
yeah.
And that process is probably something, is that something you still follow? Now you're making music out in Nashville. Is that jam process? Is that how you still create your songs and create your
Man,
music?
it's come from, I feel like, 1,000 different places for me. I mean, that's really how it started and kind of how I fell in love with it. And it's something I did with my dad to
Mhm.
connect with him and something we did together, a hobby, and we started writing songs together when I was really young. Um, and like I said, I kind of fell in love with that as a way to process everything that was going on around me, process everything in my life with songwriting. And so I kind of, you asked about the process. I've done it a lot of different ways. Like it depends on, for me, what inspires. Like the brand new song that I just put out, that song started from kind of that jam thing. I was just sitting around with a guitar and a couple of my buddies, and came up with a cool
Mhm.
lick, and I was like, oh, that's dope. I love that. I love how that feels. I love how that sounds. And my buddy started throwing lyric in, and I started throwing lyric in, and then my producer started building track, and it's like it all came together organically like that, which was cool. But I've started with thoughts and lyrics and stuff like that before. So I know there are people, and they're great, and they have a process, and they have a process that they stick to every time, and I respect that. But I feel like I've gotten really cool things from different areas of creativity, whether
Yeah.
it starts with a guitar, whether it starts with a lyric, or whether you just come home and you're bummed out and you're like, I want to write about this, or you're really excited, you're really stoked, or you got drunk last night, you want to write about that. So it's like it comes from everywhere, man, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it makes sense to not to stifle where you can, because if you keep yourself open to where it can come from and not have just like a singular process, you're probably able to be more successful and able to network a little bit. And I'm sure that's part of the songwriting process, like being able to find. Hardy comes to mind because he wrote on so many great songs before he actually became famous himself. I was lucky enough to see him as he was opening for Morgan Wallen with one of my ex-girlfriends. She was a big Wallen fan and bought tickets. He was the opener. I was like, that's something that's a guy that's including all of these different inspirations, and he's making like what it sounds like his own, but it's also country music, and it speaks to that same thing. It's difficult for creative people, for non-creative people, to see something like that and be like, it comes from, they're able to just open themselves up and experience those things. Before we get into more of what you're doing now, but as you were a kid and as you started to develop this love for music, what else were you doing? Was it all music based, or were you hanging out? Were you on in clubs, sports? What was your life outside of the music process like, or was it always just going to be this journey of getting to Nashville and at some point putting out your own stuff?
That's a good question. For me, I mean, I grew up like, you know, I tell a joke all the time. It's like I was born in a single wide, graduated to a double wide. But when we lived there, like it was on a bunch of my granddad's land, and so I spent a lot of time outside, man. I spent a lot of time out. My dad always grew a garden every year, so I was always helping him with that, and working out, working outside. And we had chickens and all kinds of stuff growing, chickens and goats, and raised hogs and stuff like that. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. So I was always like on a four wheeler or something like that, riding or outside riding four wheelers and shooting guns with my dad and stuff like that, just kind of living out in the country, man. But as far as the music thing goes, I always knew that that's what I wanted to do. When I found it, I don't know that if that young you go, well, this is what I want to do forever for a career to make money. I just knew that I wanted to make music forever. I wanted to create forever. And, and then it was something I needed to kind of keep the crazy in check, to be able to express things and, work through things in my own soul, and it's what it helped me do. But my mom, I always remember you talking about that I always want to move to Nashville. I remember when I told my mom, the day I told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm gonna move to Nashville. And it was pretty quick because I had a couple guys that I barely knew. I didn't know them very well at all. And they go, hey, and they were from the same hometown. They were like, hey man, we're moving to Nashville. I was like, when you moving? They were like, about a week and a half from now. I was like, they go, we need another roommate. Do you want to go? I was like, absolutely. And so it was quick, dude.
Any hesitation? Was there any like doubt, or was it full? Did you just jump off with the bungee cord attached? Because
I don't even know if I got a bungee cord, man. Well, I think I just jumped off.
That could be. Sometimes that's where the best things, like, you have to learn to fly. You have to force yourself to be put in those situations. That's awesome. Was that part of your band, or were those just guys that you moved out here with?
No, just guys that I moved out there with. I mean, neither of them are here in Nashville anymore. But
I was going to say,
yeah,
it sounds like you're going to be the one to make it because you had almost no other option. And
yeah.
And it's a scary thing to do, but that seems like it's part of the necessary steps of that journey. If you don't take that risk, if you don't just say yes, or say, oh, I'm going to talk to my parents, we'll figure out a date that I'm going to move X amount of months, and you can always push that back. If you just jump right into it, you basically either sink or swim. Not saying that you're going to fail and be totally out down on your luck, but at least you know that it gives you a clearer answer. If you always wait for it, or if you tried to plan it out, it probably doesn't go as the same direction. And I probably don't run into you in Vegas if you don't just jump in and say that. So that's an awesome part of your story. I didn't know about that before.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with you in the sense of if there's something that you want to do or something that's eating your soul up, man, you have to go do it. Mm-hmm. That win, lose, or draw, however it ends up, however it works out, you have to give it a shot. You have to go do it. You have to try. And, it takes a little bit of stupid and a little bit of stubborn, and or a little bit of stupid and a whole lot of stubborn, I would say, because that was my thing. It was like, I don't want to, later on in my life, I don't want to turn 50 years old and go, well, what if I moved to Nashville? It's like, I wanted to have an answer to that question, no matter how it played out, no matter how it plays out in the future. It's like, I wanted to have an answer to that question. And I wouldn't have been able to forgive myself if I didn't know, because I'd always dreamed about it. You always hear about, it's like, oh, the Capitol music, country music and all that. And, you want to see it.
It's something different. It's got its own. The South has an aura. Nashville has its own. I just out there briefly just after my senior year of high school, and went to the Country Music Hall of Fame and got the Old Opry tour and got to see. Funny enough, Chris Jansen was there, and that was right around the time Buy Me a Boat got huge on the radio. But it wasn't like he wasn't massive the way that he is now. But I got to see Chris Jansen perform Buy Me a Boat on the Grand Ole Opry stage. Just lucky, like, whoa, that was not expected, but it's an incredible place. You can't get into any of the local bars. I know that you're probably aware of that. We wanted to go to all the places. We're going to hear the best music in the world. It's capital of country music. except I can't get into any of the bars that anybody good is playing in. No offense. I just
No,
don't know of any other place. Like this is the spot. This is what I was told. If you did not make that decision to just jump in and go to Nashville, was there a backup plan? Was there another option that you had, or was that not even a thought that you allowed yourself to have? Did you just go full in without any backup? I guess we can go back. What did your mom say when you told her you were moving in a week?
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't finish that thought. She, my mom goes, I always knew you were going to move to Nashville. She was like, I always knew you were going to go. And, she was like, basically gave me a hug. Was like, I love you. Good luck. But she wasn't surprised at all. And so that, for me, that was kind of, it was cool. Well, it was cool in the sense it was like, it felt like something that I was supposed to do. It felt like something that I was always kind of drawn toward and wanting to do. But no, I mean, as far as the backup plans go, I mean, I had jobs, growing up. And so I knew I could work. I worked on a couple different crews, like just trade crews and stuff like that. I worked probably when I was 14 to 17 on a logging crew,
Okay. So it sounded, what was the, because it would be just comparative, because thinking about it with comparing where I'm from, I'm from the metro, like Denver, basically. I live like 20 minutes away from the Grizzly Rose.
Dude, I've played there.
I will want to go. I would like to see you play there again. I'm hoping that at some point you get back there, but it's a cool venue. But like that was our culture is like everybody's going to college because everybody, especially in the area that I live in, everybody's daddy has a company and they need to have a degree to get in and work at the nepotistic job that they're getting. Those are the kind of people that I grew up around. It sounds like you grew up around the total opposite. Like people that went to college were seen as like nerds. Like, oh, what?
Well, no, I mean, like,
go outside and work.
Right. Well, that's what my dad did. I mean, my dad was he worked in an open face granite mine, quarry mine, or quarry mine. But he worked in a rock quarry for for my whole life, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And he worked outside and he worked on, as a equipment operator. And so, I mean, dude, by the time I was 12, I could drive a skid steer, backhoe, tractors and stuff like that.
That's the education people don't know they need.
Yeah, well, and so that's just kind of how I grew up, and I grew up around a lot of blue collar people, and a lot of blue collar guys. My granddad was an electrician, and he worked for Bell South when Bell South existed. And so it's like, that's just kind of how I grew up. I mean, I had cousins that went to college and went to Clemson, and and all that, and so, but just what I was surrounded with was blue collar, and then when I stopped doing those jobs, I worked in a guitar shop for years, until I moved to Nashville, actually. So yeah, I mean, the backup plan, man, I don't know if I had a backup plan. I do know that I remember the decision, because I moved when I was like 21, I think. Yeah, dude. Wow. Yeah, I moved and slept on a Days Inn floor. Like, I didn't even have a bed at the Days Inn. Like, the other two guys had the money for a bed at the Days Inn, and I had like $30. So I gave them $30. I was like, let me sleep on the floor. And then I found a job on Craigslist the next day.
Craigslist. Ye old Craigslist.
Ye old Craigslist job. Yeah, dude, I started bouncing for Coyote Ugly.
No way.
Yeah. And
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That needed
to be a part of the story. What was your bouncing technique? Did you watch Roadhouse and try and get yourself like, I want you to be nice until it's time to not be nice? Go intimidation over the top.
You basically watch every Guy Ritchie movie in existence, and then try to find a balance between that.
Yeah.
But I bounced for Coyote Ugly, and then I started bouncing for Tootsie's, and then I actually got my first gig in Nashville at Tootsie's because the guy that books music or booked used to there, he was standing in a doorway, and I just stopped and asked him. I was like, "Hey man," I was like, "How do you get to play?" And there was a band on stage, and I was like, "How do you get to do that? How do you get to play there?" And he goes, "Do you sing?" And I was like, "I mean, I try to." And he goes, well, get up there. And I was like, well, there's a band up there. And he stopped the band that was on stage at Tootsie's and said, all right, go up there and play me 3 songs. So I was like, okay. So I went up and played 3 songs, and then he goes, cool, play me, a couple more. I played him a couple more, and he was like, all right, cool, you start next week. And so
You know what song? Do you have an idea what songs you chose?
I remember that I played Old Red because I was obsessed with that lick.
That's a good one.
I couldn't tell you the others. It's probably Old Red and a couple Garth Brooks songs because it's probably about all I knew at the time.
Look, you can't go wrong with the Oklahoma boys. Blake Shelton and Garth Brooks are 2 good ones to pull from. And to be honest, if the guy's trying to see if you can play gigs in Nashville, if you're doing like the suggestion ones, you're going to get a Blake Shelton and a Garth Brooks song pretty much like every other. Either that or the most obscure thing. And you're like, what? Are you sure that's a song? Are you sure? Did you just make that up?
Yeah, is that real? Or what cracks me up is it's like they'll either do that or they'll tell you the song title and a different artist. Like I've been asked for Friends in Low Places by Tim McGraw before, It's like, wait a minute,
how would you do that? Yeah,
I think you mix that up. But yeah, you talk about Garth, man. I mean, even when we met, I was still still playing Garth songs, Friends in Low Places. So that probably helped out a little bit.
Yeah, that's where country music is. My parents like to joke. I've seen Garth Brooks in concert. I've seen him technically 3 times. I've seen him with my family at Pepsi Center Ball Arena in Denver. I saw him in '97 when my mom was pregnant with me, and my dad and my mom went to see him when he came to Colorado. I think that was when he
counts. It absolutely counts.
I think it was when he was recording the Double Live album. So I'm definitely going to claim that one for sure.
Claim that you were on the record.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm sure I was kicking. He's those songs. I was doing the boot scooting boogie to those songs.
Yeah, kicking to the beat, man. Hey, that counts. You were on the record.
There you go. And I saw him most recently when he did that second comeback tour. And he was at Empower Field. I was in the very top of the Broncos Stadium, which ended up being kind of cool because in the upper halo they gave you the glow bands that they started doing. They would light up different colors for different songs that he was playing. Luckily enough, I've been lucky enough to see. I got to see him, and in Ball Arena when he does Thunder Rolls, they put out all the lights. They're able to flash the lightning across the arena ceiling. Yeah. It was raining when he played Thunder Rolls at Empower Field.
No way.
As big of a country music nerd as I was, that was one of the coolest. Didn't even matter who I was with, how I got the tickets. Could have jumped off the back of my seat and I would have been completely content by the time I hit the concrete because I'd still have like 45 more seconds of listening to the song. Just blah.
Yeah. It's just fine. It's like, nope, if I fall, I'm dying happy. That's good with that.
This is how I want to go. This is how I've always pictured it. That or rushing the stage. And then a security guard.
In the middle of Thunder Rolls.
Well, only the live version because it's the last verse of the live version that really gets me. And I'm one of those people that definitely knows about the hidden verses. If I was playing country music, I would do the faux pas and play I don't know if you ever did that. Do you play the hidden verses when you do his songs? Okay.
Yeah, all the time.
I didn't know if there was like a rule against only Garth, like only the king can wear the king's robes. I didn't know if anybody could just dust that off. So I want to hear about your wildest story as your time as a bouncer. Do you have something that was straight up insane?
Man, nothing comes to mind. It's mainly just for me, when I was bouncing at both of those places, I would start one shift. So I was a door guy at Tootsie's for a little while before I started bouncing. So I would start as a door guy at like 10 or 11 in the morning. And then I would work till 6. And then I'd have like an hour between my shift at Tootsie's and my shift at Coyote Ugly. So I'd get there's this dope little burger place on 2nd. It's not there anymore, but it's called Piranhas. It was on 2nd Ave, and they had the best burger in town, hands down. I'll fight anybody. I don't care. It was the best one. But so I get something to eat and then go work like another 8 hours at Coyote Ugly until like 3 or 4 in the morning when we all got out. But I mean, nothing comes to mind. Just mainly dealing with drunk people coming through and try and start fight. I mean, there's always, and I'm not the tallest dude in the room ever, and so I will tell you that everybody picks the shortest bouncer first. Everybody.
Because you look at the guy that looks like you either pick. Unfortunately, the short guy probably is the musician. The tall guy might be the drummer, or possibly an MMA guy that just really enjoys country music. He just needs
I
an
worked
extra
with a couple of
outlet.
those. Yep.
It just needs an extra outlet. I'm sure that there's. I'm trying to think. I know Michael Chandler fights out of Tennessee. He imagine having Michael Chandler. That would be another guy. He's the shortest guy in the room, but it'd be interesting to see that kind of thing. Bouncing at those places, college bars that's the only thing that comes to mind. Where were those two located on Broadway? Were they on Broadway, or were they a little bit off of the main strip?
Coyote was on, I don't even know if it's still there, but it was on Second Ave, and then Tootsie's is on Broadway. Tootsie's is that, and you said you got to come here once. There's a big purple building on Broadway, and that's Tootsie's.
Okay, I definitely remember Tootsie's then. I remember seeing it. Were there different places on the strip that you heard of that were more of like the seedier? Like I'm trying to get. I feel like there's a little bit more to uncover when you're trying to make it in Nashville. I'm picturing the Crazy Town with Jason Aldean, like having to figure out different ways to survive. It seems like, kind of sounds like the jungle, but like what do you think was the hardest thing that you had to overcome while doing that stuff before you actually started playing music and you got your first few gigs and started actually making money making music?
Oh man, that's a great question. The hardest thing that I had to overcome, I think just sticking around, man. I think the most difficult, and I know that, that's not like for me, it's always the simple things that are the hardest, staying consistent with the simple things. And so it was finding a place to live, making sure that I was making enough bills to at least keep my room long enough to get gigs, and then and then when you do that, you try to get enough gigs and learn the whole process. You learn how to entertain. You're talking about Garth, man. I mean, he was somebody that I grew up idolizing as far as an entertainer goes. I mean, his music too. I got to see him once in Charleston when he was doing the last tour he did.
Yep.
I got to see him in Charleston. But he was somebody that I looked up to. I would watch his videos, man. I had that DVD collection that was like 10 or 12 DVDs, and not to like date myself there. It's on a DVD.
You're hitting home right now. I remember those videos, and he's such an entertainer, and I feel the same way. Like a guy like a Freddie Mercury, you could watch them doing a audio performance, like they're singing songs. You could watch that on a television muted and be totally enthralled in what's going on because of what they're just able to do, and they can hold everybody's attention. Garth had a series. It was on GAC when he was doing his little one-man show at the Wynn. And I'm so disappointed that he's not doing that anymore, because I'd love to go and hear about his music. That was what it was, talking about his musical. But he's able to just hold everybody there. And I'm sitting on the edge of my couch at home as he's playing different licks of songs. Midnight Train to Georgia. I was like, that it gave me chills. And it's something like I said, you could watch them on mute and be totally entertained and totally enthralled.
He was 10 years running, I think, Entertainer of the Year. I think he and Kenny Chesney are the only people that have done that. And I've seen both of those shows, and they both deserve it.
Well, I mean, but then you get all the haters saying that he can't really sing. He's just doing all the acrobatics and all the flips.
Man, there's always gonna be people talking crap. There's always no matter what you do. If you're killing it, there's going to be people talking crap. If you're not killing it, there's going to be people talking crap. And that's just, that just comes with the territory. So, because I was watching those same videos, man, like the live videos, and I was trying to figure out what is he doing that's holding all those people. You watch interviews, and, you always heard Garth talk about playing to the person in the back of the room. He was like, he's playing to the people in the very back. He wants them to be able to feel it. He wants them to be able to connect. And that's who he's going after. And so it's like trying to grab stuff like that when you get your first couple gigs in Nashville to go, all right, what can I do to, what can I do to stand out? What can I do, to make a little bit of a name to go, all right, I'm here to play. I'm here to do the thing. And I got to learn from a lot of really cool people. When I told you that story about getting up and playing a few songs. So right after that, the guy that booked for Tootsie's, he sent me down to Panama City. And he was like, hey man, you're going to go down there and you're going to meet a guy named Archie. And Archie used to play for Hank Jr. And Archie's going to teach you how to work a crowd. I was like, okay, absolutely. I mean, cause like, dude, I mean,
Hank Jr. Shit.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. He played for Hank. And his Archie Van is his name. And it's a killer guitar player. But dude, I went down there, and so Archie Van was a guitar player. A guy named Thumper Tarver was the drummer. And I'll never forget that I mean, they rode me hard, man, as far as like, hey, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right, and this is bad, this is not, And I remember I got so pissed off at the drummer, and I was like, whatever, dude, just get back up here and go back to work. And so I got up on stage, and I was pissed, and I just like, put it all on the stage and in the crowd, and we got done, and the drummer grabbed me by the shoulder. He went, that right there. That's what I need from you every night. I was like, oh, cool. All right. It's like trying to pull the energy and the passion and like show you what you got to give to, to make a difference, stand out, to hold a crowd.
That's awesome. And that's cool of the guy that booked you initially. Obviously he knew that you didn't have a ton of experience, so that was part of what he wanted, but he couldn't, it's not like he's sending everybody down to work with these guys. So he obviously thought you were going to be able to stick around, and you were somebody that was worth asking those guys to work with. And it sounds a lot like the coaching that I do, and just trying to you have to find different ways to motivate different people. And some people, you take them over off to the side and we can talk about what went wrong. Or some people you have to challenge them. Like, I told you that was a dumb idea, and that's not the good way to do that. Do it how I want you to do it. And like, no, shut up. I'm not you. I'm trying to be me. And I'm sure that's what it felt like. And he's just, just poking the bear intentionally. He knew that's what you were going to do. He wasn't actually pissed off. And whether you hit him or whether you got up there and did the rest of the show, he was like, I'm going to get something. And that's what he was going for.
And he did. And the drummer down there was, I was always grateful to him for that, is pushing me to go, all right, this is what you need. This is what you need to go up on stage with if you want to hold the people, if you want to, if you want to make enough tips to eat tonight, this is how you got to work. And like you say, trying to find ways to motivate. Yeah, I'm sure there's similarities there, and you got to find different ways to motivate different people. You got to be able to read them and read what they need. And I was grateful that I got sent down with a couple guys that could do that.
So, we're kind of getting to a point. I figure maybe doing the acoustic playing first time might work a little bit better. We'll finish up with some kind of rapid fire questions. That's how we normally finish up all the interviews and everything like that. So we'll put you on the spot towards the end. Was the first time the first single? That's the first one that comes up on Spotify. Was that the first one that you put out? It's
the first one that I put out that I was like, all right, this is the direction that I want to start going in, and kind of trying to figure out what I sounded like and what I wanted to say. And I wrote first time by myself, and I was kind of pissed off at a girl one night and starting to think about, oh man, it just feels like every time you get your heart broke, it feels like the first time it ever happened. And I started thinking about that and sat down and basically just wrote a song about, my first relationship ending, and how that every time that something like that happens, it reminds me of that moment, because no matter how old you get, it always feels like you're 17 and, you got your heart crushed like a Coke cans.
And very recently, I was like, I went right back to, standing there 18 in a parking lot when, that makes a lot of sense. That, like I said, that's part of what I wanted to know about the song. It sounds a lot
through it, man. It sucks.
Yeah. It sounds a lot like, It reminded me of "Don't Think I Don't Think About It," that Darius Rucker song.
Yeah.
That it gave me a lot of those vibes. It sounded like that, and I know he's another South Carolina guy, so
Yeah.
it makes sense that would be part of the influence. Before I asked you to play and everything like that, who do you think you channel most? Who inspired your music the most? Who do you think you most sound like?
Oh man, I get compared to a lot of different guys all the time. The one that I appreciate the most because I love how I love their production, I love their writing, and the way they do things. I love Brantley Gilbert's music.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yep,
I love Eric Church's music.
that too.
As far as like the newer guys that I think I would compare my not newer as far as like still on radio today. Um, I grew up listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan and Hank Jr. and Marshall Tucker and all Leonard Skinner and all kinds of stuff. My dad still to this day, you walk in my parents' house and there's just a wall of records, and like it's
It's cool.
yeah, my dad loves music, and so I got to listen to everybody growing up, and so which was as a musician something I'm super grateful for. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the guys today, I feel like I'd probably say that I look up to, and I get compared to Brantley and Church.
Yeah, Brantley makes he's into that you have a little bit of that biker image.
Yeah,
Don't know if that's a true thing or not, but Brantley, he's been on a couple of shows that I've listened to, and he actually talked about he does have bikers that he has like he can kind of call on payroll. He was a part of that life, almost a part of that
yeah,
life, a lot further into it than being a musician. But he has a few songs that you can always rely on
yeah, dude.
and put you in a certain place. He's the guys that I really enjoy, and I do listen to the radio country music like the stadium rock. It's easy to listen to. It
Yeah,
follows the same formula, and I know. But the guys that I do enjoy listening to are like the Luke Combs, Maury
I
Wallens,
love
the
Luke. Yeah,
Hardys. I like listening to your stuff, and
thank you,
the
bro. I
radio
love it. Yeah,
station that I found today on Spotify has a lot of guys that sound similar to that. Zach Bryan is another one that's huge
yeah,
right now. But just
yeah.
that older, you guys sound older in the way the music sounds, but you're talking about the stuff that the new generation of guys are going through. So it's like
Yeah,
outlaw country, but in a updated way.
yeah,
I
man.
almost think.
Dude, Hardy's great too. I love his songs, man. I get every time he puts something out, I get excited
Yeah.
because I love like I have so much of the rock side like in the stuff that I do, and Hardy just full on embraced full on embraced the rock
I
side
think
of
he
me. Like,
released a couple pop punk songs on that last
yeah,
country album that he put out there. Those were the Mockingbird and the Crow. That turns punk really easily.
yeah, dude.
That was one that I really enjoyed.
He's obviously a great writer, and so I love his music too, man. You
Yeah.
mentioned him a couple times.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's dope.
it's difficult when I'm talking about creators and like that. He's a guy that I would look up to as just being able to. He's on. What's the best way to be successful in your industry and in this industry that we're trying to grow in is being authentically yourself. That's
Yep.
also one of the hardest things to do
Yes.
because you put yourself out there and you're vulnerable. People might not like it, and
Right.
that's upsetting. But that's a skill I'm sure you had to learn being on stage. Not every night's going to be. You're not rocking Madison Square Garden every night. You're not
Nope.
playing the Grand Ole Opry every night. Sometimes it's just a shit gig, but you got to deal with the shit gigs. I said it on our show a couple weeks ago. Like the bad shows or the bad times or the bad gigs that you have show you that there were good gigs that you were having. So maybe you got a little
100%.
monotonous, but having that down episode kind of shows you, okay, now I recentered myself. I know where I was. It wasn't like I was just, I thought I was in this middle path. I was actually up here. I have to deal with this shit now, but
Yep.
going through that will push me back up to, I can get back to those heights. It wasn't as, I thought it was lower than what it actually was. I didn't realize how well you were doing with, coming out of that negative thing. That's something that I've been thinking about over the last few days. And it sounds like, I'm sure that musicians have to learn that the hard way too.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's something to be proud of too, man. Like if you go through that and you come out on the other side and you're still creating and you're trying to figure out how to be more authentic and more yourself, and the artistic journey in that regard, man, it's because like you said, it's scary,
Mhm.
and it's not easy to go to listen to your songs, or I'm sure, like, listen to your podcast, or how you're, teaching or coming off to people. It's like to look in the mirror and go, okay, what can I do to be more of myself, to get, to give more of myself to this, to put more of myself into that. And, it's not easy. And I respect anybody that is willing to, to go, this is who I am. This is how I want, this is something I want to share with the world, something I created, and has the guts to do that, man. I think it's awesome. And but like you said, I think it makes the high points even better, because if you never, for me, it's like, if I never played the bar stools, which I did a lot, or empty bars, or even bars with people in them that, would rather be flirting with a bartender than listening to the band, it's like, every moment like that makes me appreciate when we get a room full of people that are just locked into what we're doing, and every word and every chord and every moment they're just right there with. It's like, I'm so thankful for those moments, because I had to do the other. So I'm right there with you, man.
It makes a lot of sense, and it's that's part of it. I recognize that when I saw you perform. Like, I'm sure that you would have done that the same way if the bar was empty. It's a Losers is different, because you're always going to have it's filled because it's in the middle of the MGM, like right as you go into the mall, edge of the casino floor, right into the mall. So you're either spending the money or gambling your money away, and you can meet at a country bar in the middle. Losers was a little bit different, but that it was, felt like you would give off the same energy, and that's something that I gravitated towards. And you put your own sound on the songs that you were singing. You were singing covers that night, but it sounded like your songs. And
thank you, man.
I feel like now we can, if you don't mind, this would be a decent time showing our listeners. I want to hear the acoustic version of this song, because First Time that's the one that I started listening to, like I mentioned. You talked a little bit about first song that you wrote, and that process. So if you don't mind, I think the listeners and I would appreciate it.
I don't mind at all, brother. I appreciate you asking me to play it, and thank you again for having me on. Let me share music with you and anybody listening. But I told a story earlier. This one's called First Time. Thought it'd be different now, but I'm a little older, maybe somehow I've grown a little bolder, and turning that cold shoulder wouldn't feel so wrong. Every time my clock runs out, she says, baby, it's over. Snap right back to a parking lot in Georgia, and I'm 17 in a little green Nissan, breathing deep, trying to hold on to something I had already lost and thought I could save. Feels like the first time, every time my heart breaks. It's always the same, I never see it coming. Same old pain freight train hits me and keeps running. One day I pull myself off of those tracks. Until then, I got a steady reminder of what they all chose to leave behind. And then I'm 17 in a little green Nissan, breathing deep, trying to hold on to something I had already lost and thought I could save. Feels like the first time, every time my heart breaks. Yeah. And I'm 17 in a little green Nissan, breathing deep, trying to hold on to something I had already lost and thought I could save. And I'm 17 in a little green Nissan, breathing deep, trying to hold on to something I had already lost and thought I could save. It feels like the first time, every time my heart breaks. Lord, it feels like the first time, Every time my heart breaks.
That was. It's nice. The mixed version, it hides a little bit of that chord. But
Yeah,
I didn't realize how that chord was basically that's the backbone of the entire melody of the song. That's awesome. Thank
thanks,
you for
man.
doing that. Sounded just like what I pictured. That was really cool.
Thanks,
How
man.
long did it take to come up with the music for that one?
Honestly, that one, like I said, so songs fall out in different ways, you know. And that one was just I never intended to put that song out. It was just for me, it was just I was mad at a girl and I was feeling exactly that way. And so it's like I wrote it for me, you know, in the sense of like this is how I feel right now. And, you know, I just want to express that. I want to get that out and I want to, you know, and so I got done with it. I was like, man, I actually really love this song. And so I got to go into, you know, one of the few times I got to go in a big Nashville studio and do that whole thing. And, you know, you go in and you cut a song in probably an hour. You know, you got some great players and they go through it and then you're done. You get what you get kind of thing, which, you know, there's good and bad to that. I nowadays I prefer, you know, taking a little more time, taking a couple days and actually piecing everything together, you know, being able to have a little more creative freedom on it. But
Mhm.
it was the first time that I'd gotten to go into like a, you know, big national studio and cut that song.
Yeah. It would be interesting to pick the brains of those guys playing in those studios because they have to be able to just match whatever. And
Dude.
basically, similar to those guys that play the cover shows in Nashville. I want you to play Kenny Chesney. Not only do I want you to play this Kenny Chesney song, I want you to sound like Kenny Chesney on the radio when you do it. And if you don't, you're ruining my vacation. And if you ruin my vacation, I'm going to toss this drink at you. We're going to turn this
Right.
scene into this into an actual Roadhouse scene, and Warren over at the bar is going to actually have to bounce somebody out of here.
Oh, dude, I've had to play bouncer at shows. Not ones in Nashville, but ones on the road.
Yeah,
I've had to yeah, I've had to go back to my old bouncing days for a minute. Every now and then somebody gets a little wild, but dude, the one that scares me the most isn't even like, hey, I need you, you know, I want you to do a good job on this song. It's when somebody comes up the stage and they go, hey, I really want you to play this song. It's our like 40th wedding anniversary and this is our wedding song. Those are the ones that those are the only ones really the requests that make me nervous. And I'm like, oh no, it's like you have to get this one perfect, man. It's like they've been together for decades and you know,
yeah.
that's incredible. That's awesome. And
It's
then
a
they
lot of
just ask
pressure.
us, oh yeah, dude, that one, that one gets to me.
It's a
Um,
lot of pressure.
but
Oh,
the studio guys, man, are unreal.
yeah.
Like you give them a chart, you let them hear the song once, maybe twice, and then they've got a chart in front of them, and then they go in the studio and they record it. And I mean,
Yeah.
they're phenomenally talented.
It's being around a savant like that is something that it's just entertaining even to watch. I've seen the videos on the internet of I can't think of his name, the drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Oh yeah,
Chad Smith. Is that
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so.
And
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
able to listen to 30 Seconds to Mars for like 45 seconds, pick up the beat that it's in, and basically play the drum riff that was in the song just on. He's not hearing it in his headphones. He can just hear what the other instruments are doing, and he can just match it. That's
yeah.
just that's somebody who's does the 10,000 hours thing, and
Hmm.
that's a master of his craft. Those are the kind of people that are interesting. Being around them every now and then is like that. I have a. It's good to find role models and people like that you kind of stick out to. Um, Before we get into the rapid fire questions,
Yeah.
what is your plan? So I know that Let Me Go is out now, which we've been
Yep.
talking about. Just I don't know how long ago that you released it, but it's out and it's released. What's the plan for the upcoming future? You said you were working in the studio, not necessarily touring as much, but what are your kind of plans? Where are people going to be able to find the most about what you're doing as we're getting into the rapid fire and then wrapping things up?
Yeah, man. Honestly, like just the streaming services. If you follow me on like Spotify or iTunes or something like that, because we just dropped "Let Me Go" probably right now, probably a week and a half ago, something like that. So it hadn't been out very long, but I've got music coming probably once a month this year. So at least we're going to drop a new song about once a month,
Okay.
and get to see what people think. And so that's part of the reason that I'm not touring as much, so I can really really focus on writing songs and developing those in the studio and getting them out to people, man.
Is the overall goal to be picked up by a label, or is it to stay independent as long as possible? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. Honestly, I'm open to anything. I'm not just uh, I'm not just going to jump on anything that comes across, or comes along. But if it's the right, right relationship, right, right thing, then absolutely, But I'm definitely trying to build something independent, and build a sound and build something that hopefully people really love and connect to, and they really can see themselves in, because I see myself in it.
Yeah, it's working, so I don't think that there's anything that needs to be. I mean, just people need to keep listening. So benchwarmers need
Thank
to.
you,
They have their benchwarmers have their homework assignment. Listen to Warren Garrett. Tell people to listen to Warren Garrett.
let's go.
Tag
Thanks,
him
y'all.
as many times as possible that you listen to this show. And if you're one of his fans, make sure that you subscribe. I'm sure we'll reciprocate
Absolutely.
everything. And
Yes.
obviously, you guys listen to Warren if you listen to the show every week, twice a week, because we play it at the beginning and the end of the show. That's how we
Thank
end,
you,
and that's
man.
how we start. And
Dude, that's the only theme song or anything like that I've ever gotten to make, and it was so much fun, like coming up with that.
But I will tell you, my goal at some point is to be able to pay you residuals, which I shouldn't be probably saying that on camera, because if things go
No,
the
we
way
got
that I
proof.
want it to, if things go the way that I want it to, I'm going to end up owing you a pretty penny, because we're already at like 100, almost 200 episodes of this thing. So it wouldn't be quite that much, but it's 2.5 years worth of residual checks. I don't know. Maybe I'll be like the movie studios that send you like a 12-cent one that I spend more money on the stamp that I
Right? Yeah,
actually spend on
or
paying you.
or the
Be
envelope
like,
for
hey,
sure.
actually, Warren, can you hit me back with a $5 bill, because the mail courier wanted a tip, and it's around Christmas.
And it's around Christmas, and I had to tip him, and so yeah, here's your 12 cents, though, buddy. Thank
Things
you.
are tight, okay? Things are tight. Everybody needs to listen, so that's not the reality that I don't need to be panhandling on Broadway. That's not how my life needs to go.
Right? Yeah.
Rapid fire questions, just things that we normally do it with the athletes that we've had on the show. So
Yeah.
I'll kind of keep it similar to that. If you were not a country music artist, what would your ideal music genre be that you would perform? And what do you think would be the weirdest musical genre to perform? So what do you think that
Oh,
you would
dude.
want to do if you couldn't do country music, and what do you think would be the most outlandish for you to try?
So if I wasn't in country, I would just be straight up rock. I would absolutely be straight
Like
up rock.
a Daughtry, Nickelback kind of?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Just straight up. Yeah, like butt rock stuff for sure.
I didn't say it, you said it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's what they keep calling it.
I called it divorced dad rock, so
that one feels worse to me.
it honestly it might be. Who really knows at this point?
Yeah,
I'm just telling you what I heard. The kids say the damnedest shit at school.
they do. Yeah. Oh, I bet. I can't
Well,
imagine.
what do you think would be the most outlandish for you to try? But you would be willing to actually give it a try.
Oh, dude. If I didn't have to sing it, like if I could just, produce and like write the music and stuff for it, I'd be game to do anything. It'd be fun to like. I've thought about legitimately like making lo-fi tracks and stuff like that just for fun. Like, I mean, but I've gotten to play around with a bunch of different genres, so I love music. I know that feels like such a bullshit, like stereotypical answer that like I listen to everything and would, but dude, there's nothing that I would just be like scared to make. You probably wouldn't want me writing anything orchestral, but other than that, I'd write it, produce
Why
it.
is there a mandolin in Beethoven's Sixth right now?
That's a really annoying little dee-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, it might not be the best thing. It makes sense. The rock influence is present in your music. Favorite venue that you've played?
Oh, dude, there's so many that I love for so many different reasons. Like like little college bars is fun. We were talking about the Grizzly Rose earlier. We got to open for Easton Corbin there.
No way.
And yeah, and that was a special show.
Yeah,
it was a special show because the crowd actually gave us a chance. I mean, because we were just there to be practically a cover band, and then they were like, "Hey, do you want to open for Easton?" Like, yeah, and so we did a bunch of my songs, and the crowd was just in it with us, man. And they were listening to the stories, they were digging on the songs. They got a bunch of people talk to after that, was signing a bunch of stuff, man. That was a really special show.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was it do you know what day of the week it was? Because Sunday nights are their busy nights because that's the line dancing class.
Their line dancing night, yeah. No, it was like Friday or Saturday. It was
Friday or Saturday. No, yeah. That's awesome, and it's cool that Colorado. It's weird that it's right in the center of like the downtown industrial area, but Colorado's definitely got that more country and Western history to it. And the Grizzly Rose, people will come in from those small towns just to go to the Grizzly Rose because of like the dancing, the music, the vibe. They keep everything fairly cheap. It makes sense why that venue is something that the artists want to come back to that venue because it's a cool place to play. Everybody loves coming to Colorado, and it just seems like it's a really good setup. So it's awesome that you said that, and I'm sure that the Colorado people that are listening to the podcast appreciate that also.
Dude, I love
shout out to the Grizzly Rose.
Absolutely, I love that whole area. I love Denver. Like, we got to go out to I can't remember the name. Is it Georgetown or whatever? That's
there's Georgetown has the train.
The train. Yes, yeah, dude. So I grew up in South Carolina at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, right? Mm-hmm. So when we were like, all right, we're gonna go to Colorado to get to see some mountains, I was like, I grew up around mountains, man.
Oh, like, yeah. That's what they all say.
Yeah, well, dude, my Southerners might get mad at me for saying this, but we ain't got mountains like this compared to the Rockies. Like, golly, dude, we got there and it was just like I've never been. There's a couple times in my life that I've got to see places that just completely awestruck me, just like punched me in the face with how beautiful it is, and that's how I felt about going into Colorado, especially going up Georgetown through the mountains and like the train. And dude, I felt like I was in a Clint Eastwood movie like that. It's so pretty up there.
I have been through the Smoky Mountains, and I appreciate the Smoky Mountains for what they are. The trees there, they're more like singular. Colorado is all pine trees, so everything's like filled in. You can actually kind of see into the forest through the Smoky Mountains, and I did appreciate it that way. But the Rocky Mountains, I went to school in the middle of them, so I have a heavy bias. I was at 7,700 feet elevation the entire time I was going to school. Yeah, imagine going out there to play football as a team from Nebraska going all the way up to 7,000 feet elevation. Yeah. We had a nice little decent home field advantage.
I bet you could run for 30 miles and not even feel it.
I would come back down here. Honestly, what you really in college, what do you get it? What does it affect you with drinking? So I couldn't drink when I would go to school, but I'd come back after drinking the way that I would at college. And when I'm just back home, which is only 2,000 feet lower elevation, all of a sudden I'm putting down whoa, I didn't know I could drink a 12-pack to myself. This is a new skill that I did not realize I have achieved. What did you learn in college? How to kill a 12er?
How to kill a 12er.
I was a sociology and communications major. What do you think? I learned how to hit record on a computer screen, and I learned how to kill a 12.
Hey, at least you'll be able to keep you can kill a 12-pack by yourself for the rest of your life. Like, that's a valuable skill.
That's a skill that until it gets out of hand, and then people are gonna tell me to drop it down to a 6.
Right? Yeah. Cut it in half. Cut it in half.
6. What am I, a baby? What is this? What is this, church? I can only have a 6.
You weren't drinking with me up there, up in the Rockies.
Yeah, I'll be the crazy mountain man. I am that way. I will only drink Coors Banquet, and I have a partiality to anybody that I see drinking Coors Light or Coors Banquet. It's mainly Coors Banquet because that's all Colorado water. They mix in some Missouri water with the Coors Light.
I didn't know that.
Sometimes they produce it so much, and there's plants all the way. The banquets are actually only brewed with golden water.
No way. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Dude,
next time you play the Rose, you should go to Golden and do the Coors Brewing tour. Is
that in Denver?
It's like 30 minutes. So if you were at the Grizzly Rose, depending on where you're staying downtown, it'd be like a 30-minute drive out to the Coors Brewing Factory, but they do tours there. They give you samples of the different beers. They talk about the guy that initially started the company. And honestly, they brew a ton. Like Blue Moon's brewed out of Coors Brewing Company.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's something that not a lot of people know about. They give you a little coupon at the end, so you can go get all the different beers at whatever little restaurant, beer and a burger. At it's a college town, so there's a ton of different little spots. It's honestly a nice little, just a little tip next time you play Beers of the Bros.
Yeah, we'll have to go do that, man. That's badass.
All right, I guess the last rapid fire question, even though that we totally went off, this is how things normally go with me. I get off onto tangents and then I just keep talking.
I do the same thing, man. It's like every one of my shows, I just call it's ADD Live, bro.
There we go. Who would you most like to work with? So if you guys were gonna sit down and make, like, I don't know what the normal number of songs you would put together. Say you're gonna make a series of 3 songs. Who would you can pick anybody that you want to. Who would you most like to collaborate on making those 3 songs with?
Oh, dude, that's hard. As far as like writers or producers, just anybody?
Let's go musicians, like other guys. So guys that you know can write, but guys that you think you would sound, if you're making like a series of 3 songs, kind of like how Keith Urban and Brad Paisley did that one, like the start band. Like you guys were gonna put your spins on one song together, on a couple songs together. Who would you want to most do that with?
I mean, I'll have to go with the OG2 that I said earlier, like Church and Brantley, and then I'll throw Hardy in there too, man, because he's dope. And it's like if I could go further down the rock thing, I wouldn't be mad about it. I wouldn't be mad just writing some of the straight up rock stuff.
Yeah. I need that to happen. So everybody needs to get this in front of those people. Eric Church,
absolutely,
Brantley Gilbert, Hardy, all those guys. Honestly, I think that you'd be able to do. I'm just picturing all my favorite artists that I'm thinking, like Parker McCollum. You guys could probably make something on.
Parker's great too.
You would bring a little bit more edge to what his sound is. He's a little bit more of the sad cowboy. You bring a little bit more of that rock to him. No, I love him. I love his music, but it's total sad cow. Finally got a handle on you. Yeah. Why are you drinking? Oh, you sad?
What are you sad?
Yeah. A little upset. All right. Things are going off the rails. So I will let you. I appreciate you coming on the show. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was awesome. And like I said, I'm such a big music fan. Listening to you that first night out in Vegas, I wanted you to be. I love that you're the opener of our show. You set the tone for our episodes each week. So I appreciate you making that song, and I appreciate you giving up your time, because I know that you could be doing. You have plenty of stuff to be working on, but this has been really fun, and there's a lot of cool nuggets of your story that I think people are going to really resonate with, and we're going to be showing everybody what your newest song, Let Me Go, sounds like here in a couple seconds here once the episode's over. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate you coming on and being as open and honest about all the things that we talked about. I think our listeners are really going to enjoy it.
I appreciate you having me on, brother. I'm glad we met in Vegas. That was a lot of fun. That show was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I got to do the intro song. That's cool. It was a cool thing to get asked to do, and I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for having me on.
All right. If you want to check out Warren Garrett, check out WarrenGarrettMusic.com. Stay tuned here. We're going to listen to Let Me Go, which is out now on all platforms. This has been a special bonus edition of The Far End of the Bench with myself, Jimmy Pilato, and our special guest, Warren Garrett. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you.